gaming industry is in dire need of a change right now. I've said it once and I'll say it again, but I'm tired of every form of media thirsting after our attention like a bunch of starving vampires. You know, I can tell we're all tired of being sold to, tired of being manipulated and spending our money. I can tell we're all frustrated with the state of the industry. I mean, there's layoffs every week. Release windows are getting longer and longer. The ever-increasing cost of gaming hardware is making it harder and harder to stay attached to, you know, the latest releases or to stay involved in our favorite hobby sometimes because things are just too hard to afford. I mean, what are we supposed to do when a new RAM stick is suddenly $300 or out of the blue we see an increase of $150 on a console we've been saving up for a while, and suddenly they just decide, hey, no, you can't afford this anymore, sorry. It's frustrating, you know? I mean, a price increase 6 years later. Really? Cold hard reality is that we're nothing more than a bunch of numbers on a spreadsheet to a lot of these big businesses that are controlling our favorite artistic medium, and it's frustrating to know that they just see us as nothing more than that, you know? And it's especially annoying because gaming is more than just a fun little hobby for a lot of us. I know for me at least, it's a way for me to kind of connect with the world around me. It's a way for me to connect with people. It's a way for me to understand myself a little better. It's not just escapism, but I use it as a tool to kind of contend with the more difficult emotions I experience day to day. But they don't really care about that. You know, most times it's about money and engagement. And as long as the AAA space is a purely profit-driven endeavor, then I have a hard time staying hopeful about things, you know? So yeah, it's a little disheartening to know that something so important to me is nothing more than a gold mine ripe for extraction for some of these big corporations that are getting into gaming. So I've desperately been trying to find the light wherever I can. I just want to play games made by people that care, not by big corporations that are using data to drive every single decision that they make. And this has led me down the path of indie games for the time being. Of course, you know, I'll still check out some big AAA releases every now and then. I'm not immune to the allure of Elder Scrolls 6 or the Wolverine game, but right now, my priorities lie with the underdogs, the smaller titles, the smaller teams, the ones who are trying something new in the space or really just getting their nose to the grindstone and pushing something cool out there. Games are art. That's all there is to it. Games are art, and I think true creativity in the space deserves to be celebrated and deserves to be supported. And the indie space is full of creative individuals or creative teams that are contributing to the medium. And so there's a lot to be explored out there. So right now I just kind of wanted to cover a few different games that I think do add something to the space that is worth checking out. So if you've been watching this far, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Let's just get right into it. Start Mouse PI for Hire. I'm sure you've heard of it. I'm sure your eyes have been on it since it was released all those years back. But it's a game developed by Fumi Games and published by PlaySide Studios. There's a lot being said about this game right now. There's a lot being said when it released. A lot of it positive, some of it negative. For me, I kind of tuned out of the discussion until I got the chance to play it myself. And let me just say, I thought it was fantastic. Somewhat original too, because how many games do we really have that kind of tackle this specific aesthetic head on and this specific space head on? I mean, action aside, I just have to really give it up for the art style. It's unique. It's fun to be in this kind of world where you really are immersed in a 20s 30s style animated cartoon. You got a world of mice, you got a murder mystery, you got a underground rodent trafficking ring, you got corrupt public officials, you got cheese puns all wrapped up in this neat little package that doesn't overstay its welcome and stays pretty engaging the whole way through just on its art style alone. I mean, that carried a lot of it for me, but it was still worthwhile. Those classic old style animation tropes do dominate the gameplay, from these little dancing flowers to expressive sound effects to a funky little backing track over the entire journey. It's a lot of fun to kind of see that the team really didn't spare any expense in creating something that was so detail oriented, where it just shows the craftsmanship and how much care went into putting something together that would make an impact on the space. I mean, it's worth checking out, really. The game is just a breath of fresh air. It's from one of those indie developers that broke through the mold, got a publisher behind them, and really just made an impact. And I think it's a great story. I think it's a great game. It's a meaningful addition to the catalog of indie greats. Mouse PI for Hire, a game you should definitely check out if you're even a little bit interested. Next, I wanted to talk about Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, developed by Simogo, published by Annapurna Interactive, and honestly, I've never played anything quite like this. At its core, it's a puzzle game, but you dive a little deeper, you peel the layers back, and it's also somewhat of a commentary on the art world, on wealth, and I think, honestly, a lot of those deeper elements of the experience kind of went over my head because the storytelling is so abstract, but I can tell there's a lot there. I can tell it goes to a lot of different places, and I will say it does it in an effective enough way to hold your attention. I mean, it held my attention, even in those moments where I was like, I think Resident Evil without the action and it's just the puzzles, that's Lorelei, and that's kind of why I fell in love with it. The puzzles are designed super well, super intuitively, and they all just kind of make sense. I mean, I'll give you an example, but there was this one puzzle I was in a room, there's a blank keypad, there's a statue in the middle of the room, and I was trying to figure out how I could find the code to the keypad. The statue looked like it could be associated to the solution in some way, so I spent some time there thinking about it, mulling over the information the game gave me, and had an aha moment where, what if I did this? And it worked. So that's kind of an example of the intuitive nature of a lot of the puzzles, where if you have a hunch and you follow that hunch, more times than not, that hunch will lead you straight to the solution. It's just great. The systems work very well. It's challenging, it's abstract, it's satisfying, and it's fulfilling to see the fruits of your labor emerge as more of this the level opens up, and as you get to explore more of the space as a direct result of the work you put into solving all those puzzles, which I think just elevated the experience immensely. It rewards your persistence. The game, there are a lot of moments where you will feel stuck, where you'll feel like you hit a dead end, but the longer you play, the more you look over the information, the more you kind of explore, the more you start to realize you're kind of getting it, and then you'll have that aha moment where suddenly the puzzle you were mulling over for hours and hours and hours has a solution to it. So you act on that potential solution, see that it worked out, and suddenly you're getting in the flow of things again. And that kind of feeling of discovery, that kind of feeling of accomplishment, I feel is a little bit rare in a lot of games, but this one definitely capitalizes on that very effectively, because the puzzles are challenging enough to where you gotta really think, you gotta use all the tools at your disposal, you gotta look over all the information presented to you, but once you find that solution, it's like, yes, I had to put the work in, and it paid off. So shout out to Lorelei and the Laser Eyes for being such a tremendous puzzle experience, something so weird and and abstract, but it's still at its core was a solid experience overall. And then before we get to the next section, I just wanted to say shout out to the community for this game. There were a lot of times where I did hit a dead end, but looking for a solution, the community helped guide me in the right direction without completely spoiling the experience for me, and I felt that was awesome. They do care a lot about their puzzle games, as do I, so it was cool to see a lot of like-minded individuals in that way. So Lorelei and the Laser Eye, give it a shot. Even if puzzle games might not be your cup of tea, there's a lot here that is definitely worth checking out at least a little bit. Now, finally, we got this interesting little game called Sol Sesto. I think that's how you pronounce it, but it's a roguelike. So the first thing I asked myself when I put it on my radar was, do we really need another roguelike? No, but also I love the genre, so I gave it a shot anyway. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's really cool. The art style is super unique. I mean, obviously it harkens back to some old artistic movement that I'm not educated enough to point out exactly, but it's there, and I'm assuming it does it pretty effectively and pretty authentically. And it's it's very, very unique in not only its art style, but also in its approach to roguelike gameplay design. For the most part, it's got a lot of the similar elements you'd expect, modifiers, items, different characters, persistent upgrades, but I think what it does is it strips back a lot of what you would expect out of a roguelike to its bare parts, which is pretty much statistics, percentages, probabilities. The way that it works is you're basically going floor to floor and trying to work with these the chances that you have. It's basically, what are the chances something good will happen? What are the chances something bad will happen? So you're constantly having this conversation with yourself and thinking about every decision that you make and whether or not it's worth making. You know, so you have a 50% chance of something good happening, and then a 50% chance of something bad happening. Is the bad thing worth taking that 50-50 chance? I think yeah, and I just had a lot of fun with it. There's nothing too crazy about it other than the art, I think, that really stood out to me. And it just introduces an interesting dynamic to roguelike gameplay that made it a worthy addition to the genre. You know, I think it's different enough. I think it's unique enough. I think it stands out enough for it to be worth a shot if you're into roguelikes at all. Definitely shout out Solcesto. And yeah, so this one was developed by like a small team of people. It looks like a couple different publishers involved, but worth definitely checking out. And it's not like the priciest game ever, but you'll get a lot out of it, I think, if you're really into this genre. So thanks for getting this far. If you have, all I'm really trying to say with this video is that the future is certainly indie. This is only a little look into what I've been trying to experience recently. I think there's a lot more out there that I'm going to play, that I'm going to cover for you all, and that I'm going to spotlight, because indie games, you know, the space is worthwhile to stay in the conversation. I think we got to support this industry from the bottom up, and that means supporting these artistic endeavors that aren't necessarily in the mainstream, that don't have the big budgets behind them. And though it may sound like it sometimes, I'm not hopeless. In fact, I'm hopeful for where the industry's headed. I feel like every year games are getting bigger and bigger, and I just can't wait till they're discussed in the same way that movies, television, and books are discussed in terms of the impacts. I think games are an art form unlike any other, and the indie space does a lot of work to make sure that the medium is continued to be pushed forward. And no, I don't think we should write off the AAA segment of the industry as a whole. I think the AAA space does do a lot for games in terms of keeping them in the conversation, in terms of showing us what can happen when you have like all these different resources poured into a single experience. I mean, there's certainly something to be said about that, but there are a lot of drawbacks in the way that the industry is working right now that I think need to be either resolved or confronted before we really start to enter this next chapter of what games can be capable of. So yeah, shout out indies. I'm going to continue to dive deeper and deeper because I just love these little experiences that offer a lot and demand little of us. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you have any thoughts, if you liked it, drop a like. If you have any thoughts, please send them down to the comment section. I love talking with you guys about this. But for now, I'll see you in the next one. Appreciate you for watching.